Have you ever thought about writing a book, but you came up with five excuses why it wasn't the right time? Maybe it's because you've gotten busier since the last time you thought about it, or you had a child, or changed jobs, or got into a new hobby. How could you possibly have time? And with the leaders that I work with, business owners, entrepreneurs, people who have a very busy schedule already, to find the time to write a book seems almost impossible. Well, in this episode today, I want to tell you about five things you can do to increase your writing even if you don't have time. And I hope this helps you get out of your head and onto the page. One of the most amazing things about becoming an author is that it allows you to do things that other people can't. Let me tell you what I mean. I was able to get a TED Talk without applying because I was an author. It'd be much more difficult to convince somebody I had something to say if I didn't have a book to show it. Now, that's a big benefit, right, of being an author. But there's also quite a bit of risk, or at least perceived risk, that it's something you have to take time to write. You have to get it edited, published, get it out there, launch it, get reviews. There's a lot involved. But I think people misunderstand that though it takes a lot of time, the benefits of having a book far outweigh the few months of agony that you might feel you have when you're writing a book. And if I can help you today knock down some of the challenging things that come with writing a book, you might actually be able to start right now and get your book out and finished before the end of the year. And if that's where you're at, you're like, look, 2023 is just about halfway over, but doesn't mean you're too late not to get your book done this year. So here are the five things you can do to get writing faster than you've ever had before. The first tip, number one, is I want you to stop thinking about writing and thinking as a tool that you do together. And what I mean by that is in school, we were told, here's your assignment, right? Your teacher gave you a paper or a requirement for the class, had a paper involved, and you were told what to write. Well, in order to do what they've asked you, of course, you have to think about it, but more than likely you overthink it. And that's why we put papers off to the day before, is we start building a resistance to writing because one, it doesn't seem very fun. Two, it's not something you chose, it was assigned to you. And three, maybe you believe you're not very good at it. All of those things added up don't feel like something you want to do. So the first thing you need to do is start to unplug your mind from what you think writing is. Just because your experience in school or thus far has created a certain type of belief about writing, I want you to let that go. Because if you can let go of what writing is supposed to be, you might have more room for what writing is. Now, it's not your fault. You were probably educated like most of us through some school system, public or private, and they told you this is how you write. And so you did what they said. And they assigned papers that followed those rules, this 5 paragraph essay or write a thesis statement, then prove it. Like those are all things. I know that's very rudimentary, but that were built based on schooling. And that writing wasn't based on what you actually do in real life. It's based on what you need for academic life, for the next class. But once you get out of college, you realize no one writes like that. No one writes academically. And when you're not assigned something to do, how do you know what to say? So tip number one to go faster, start being open to change your mind about what writing is. Don't overthink it. And don't think that thinking is writing. They're two separate things. So, first, change your mind about what writing is. Secondly, you have to develop a habit of writing. You have to have some sort of plan. I was just today on a podcast episode after we finished recording. I chatted with the host, or sorry, the guest, and about you know sort of my ideas and how things came about and how I became a runner. Was I just started to run, and I didn't just run once. I ran every day, and I didn't run every day. I ran 10Ks every day for 40 days. At the end of the 40 days, I definitely thought of myself as a runner. I knew all the things that people were talked about the runner's high, about what happens at mile 3 when the endorphins kick in, what happens when you don't have your shoes laced tight enough, your toes turn black. Like I learned about hydration because I wasn't doing it well. Putting in the reps is what creates the opportunity for you to call yourself a writer. So the other thing is, stop thinking you're a writer when you finish publishing your book. You're a writer the moment you decide. So tip number two, to go faster, decide I'm a writer and no longer put it off or think that it's something far away from you. It's something you're going to do on a regular basis. You'll write every day. You'll write a certain time every week, whatever it is. So you have to put in your mind, I'm a writer, and writers write, and that's it. There is no delaying it. There is no more putting it off, because that's what makes it hard, delaying taking action. So tip number 2, call yourself a writer and start the act of writing. Tip number 3, if you haven't already found what you want to write about, then start being curious. It's not that you need a list of ideas, but if you don't have ideas at all, spending some time coming up with those ideas is great. Maybe you create a whole list of ideas and then you narrow it down. So you have to narrow down what you're writing about so that you don't get distracted. If you're like me, I have lots of interests and hobbies, so I can easily get distracted. Well, what I want you to do is narrow it down so that you could easily get from a list of 25. Let's say you have 25 ideas. Maybe you have so many ideas you don't do it. Maybe you narrow it down to 10, and then narrow it down to 5, and then narrow it down to 3. Now you might be asking, how do I narrow it down if I have so many ideas? I don't know what to choose. More than likely, you're thinking about something like, well, I don't know what the right idea is to choose. And that's not how I want you to think of it. Getting a clear idea is not about finding the right idea. It's about finding the idea that gets you the most energy, the most excitement, gets you really revved up to actually do the work. Because if it's just a good idea, but it's not something that you're interested in for a long time, you won't be able to keep up the momentum you'll need to start writing. And also, don't be worried you don't know exactly what you're writing yet. But picking the topic, narrowing it down to 3, makes it infinitely easier to choose. Because the next thing you need to do, besides say, okay, which of these give me energy? Of those 3, you say, which of these give me less energy? And then you eliminate one. Now you have 2 to choose from. And the way you choose that one is say, which one gets me more excited, this one or that one? And if you say equal, then you need to actually kind of make a list of what are the things, the attributes, because you really need to make a choice. I always say go down to energy and excitement, because most people who are writing a book give up because they get less committed. Okay? So the next one, number 4, I want you to be not only committed to the idea, narrowing it down, but I want you to know why you're doing it. Now, this might sound strange when I'm saying that you need to write faster. Your why is so important, because if you don't know why you're doing this, you'll find any other reason to stop. I always laugh at, I'd rather do anything sometimes than write. I might rearrange the closet. I might clean my desk. I might actually go weed the garden. These are all things that I do when I'm avoiding the work. And I'm avoiding it sometimes because of all the blocks that come up from writing. That's for another episode. But if you want to improve your writing and get more done, then what you need to do is create yourself not only these habits, but also allow yourself to stay in the presence of writing longer. Like, you have to be willing to let your writer's mind show up for you. And if you can do that long enough, then your why will help you maintain that momentum, right? I'm doing this for having maybe an opportunity later. The reason I started writing my book, even though I had been talking about it for so long, wasn't for a hobby. I really wanted my life to change. And the book was my entryway. I wanted to learn how to find a mentor that I could build an apprenticeship with, but I didn't know exactly how to go about it. So I used the book as a tool to let me wander through my curiosity. And my why carried me across the finish line, more than just the idea of it being nice to have a book done. Your why is what you need to exercise at this point. And lastly, I think if there's anything that can help improve your speed, is to eliminate the amount of thinking you do. I know this is, again, another strange concept. Not only just in the beginning, letting go of what you believe writing is letting go of the idea that you're supposed to think about writing. Writing is meant for you to put something on the page. And most of us think, I need to figure out what I have to say before I say it. Do you do that when you speak? When you encounter someone? When you're passionate about something? Do you stop to think about every sentence, what you're going to say? More than likely, you just show up and speak. And the more tentative you are, the harder it is to communicate. So really, shutting down the thinking brain is what you need to do in order to pick up the speed in writing. Because if you have to write, then think, or think and then write, and then come back to it and edit and all these things, all these different things that have nothing to do with writing yet, then you're going to avoid writing, because it seems like writing's hard and takes forever. So one of the exercises you can do is just for fun, hit a timer and just start writing. Start with 5 minutes a day. Don't think about what you're going to write, just write. And the Artist Way, I think they call this the morning pages. Its job is to unblock the flow or the belief that writing is hard. I want you to just show up for the writing. Whatever comes out, comes out. That's a good habit to have, but it isn't just free writing. Like, I think you need to practice having clear writing, because when you go to write your book, you have to have a clear intention. It isn't journal work, right? When you write, you don't want to read someone's journal, but you want to have the same flow that you have when you're writing a journal. You want the same presence, right? You ever heard someone being in flow? That's what it means, is they're no longer attached to their thinking. They're just doing the thing, whether it's painting, running, or writing a book. The more you believe that writing is thinking, the harder it will be for you. And especially those of us who are very academic in nature, it's going to really feel odd, because you're going to feel like you don't know what you're saying. But that's a good question to ponder. Why do I have to think to know what to say? Why do I believe that? What am I trying to protect myself from by thinking first? More than likely, you're protecting yourself from having a bad idea come out, having one you think will be graded harshly, one you think doesn't fit the assignment. These are all residual things that are left over from schooling. And what I want you to do is not worry about what you think is going to be on the page. That's how you'll increase your speed. These 5 things can really help you increase your speed, be more efficient in writing, and also allow you to enjoy it more. Because if you don't enjoy it, that's fine on any given day, but you have to find a way to continue to do it. There are days where I know I need to write, and then there's days I can't wait to write. The goal is to create more opportunity for days that you feel like you want to write and need to write. So you'll be inspired and take action. So if you're listening today and you're wondering what I can do, to pick any one of these tips, try any one to start to move forward faster. It's really how I was able to finish my first book in 30 days. Was I started to remove all these roadblocks that had built up over time that I didn't even know were there. And I kept feeling bad because I'd take some other course or some other workshop or another book, and no matter how they told me I should do it, the resistance still came, because I didn't know I was supposed to remove the thinking I had in order to do the other thing. And that's what you're going to have to do here, to prioritize your speed and efficiency as a writer. But you can do it. Just be mindful that what these 5 tips are and how you can start to implement any one of them that works for you. Now, everyone's different, so some of these won't work for you. I'm just giving you suggestions, but I really want to inspire you to take actions, because a lot of times authors or writers that come to me will try to say, well, I tried that, doesn't work. And I was like, oh, tell me about how it didn't work. I want to hear. And when we get down to it, realize their thinking was about the thing was what was off, not the actual activity, not the actual action. So just be aware of your thinking, because that's one of the places where I tend to forget that we have unconscious programming that actually powers our thinking, moves us forward without even knowing that's happening. And I want you to challenge some of those assumptions so that your writing can actually become effortless, easy, um, painless. Sure, it might take time. You might write slower than I do, or you might write 10 times faster, but it doesn't matter, because you're going to take the steps every day to become a writer. Well, as always, I'm so glad that you're here listening. And if you're ever interested in joining our programs, this is the perfect time. We're at the halfway mark. We're a little bit more, but still just enough time. We're just getting here in the midway of the year to join our next cohort of authors who are going to be writing this year to finish their book on a schedule. They're going to be meeting every week with their author coach. They're going to be getting an assignment that they can do in the reasonable amount of time. They're going to get a plan for their book and take action and write it. And we're looking for you. So if you've been wanting to write a book, but you're not sure if you're a right fit, you're not sure if you should apply because you don't know if it'd be a waste of your time, or if you maybe think that you don't have the money or funds, we have so many different programs that we can offer for you that will allow you to. So I want you to go to authorswholead.com, click on apply now, and tell us why you want to write a book. Tell us why you would be a good fit for our program and where you're at in your writing process. Because I have a feeling that we have a program that will fit you, your time constraints, your budget, but also to help inspire more leaders put their message out in the world. And that's why we're here. We really want to help people make a movement with their message. And we think that here at Authors Who Lead, the hundreds of authors that have gone through our programs have really made it not just an impact with their book on us, but on the world and the people they serve. And I want to see you write a book. Stop thinking about all the excuses of why you can't, and join one of the programs and all the other alumni who have shown how and why they have done it. All right. Thank you so much for listening to another episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side.